What's the difference between the Aldbury Dominion and a brick? Well, a brick will at least be used to fix a wall. What's going on, YouTube? So I wanted to do a dedicated video on the information that I had learned at the San Diego event for ESO, but I thought it's probably better to break it down by topic since they're just so different. Some of it's regarding scrying, some of it's regarding next year's chapter update, some of it's regarding Cyrodiil, Battle Spirit. So I thought, let's do the Cyrodiil conversation because a lot of you guys said, Jake, I want you to go and ask about Cyrodiil. When's it going to be updated? What did the developers say? What numbers are they tracking? What are the things that are going on in regards to that? And I'm going to break all of that down for you. Before I do that, though, if you don't mind, just hit the like and subscribe button. I put chapters below. We do super fast intros. So let's jump into it. And before we talk about Cyrodiil specifically, we have to talk about Battlegrounds because a lot of people were a bit perplexed as to why Battlegrounds saw the update. But once you realize that since September of 2022, an ESO does an 18-month development cycle, it starts to make sense. So why are Battlegrounds better in the eyes of ZeniMax than Cyrodiil? And this is a question that I had asked. And more people are logging in and completing Battlegrounds than they are Cyrodiil. So they wanted to see if they even boosted the rewards further by doing these 25% weekends, giving an additional bonus, during those weekends. Could they incentivize even more people to try Battlegrounds? And then they looked at which Battlegrounds weekends were the most popular, which ones were people avoiding, and how kind of everything broke down. People may also remember that at one point they even attempted to allow you to queue for deathmatch or flag games separately, but they had to remove that functionality because oftentimes queues were getting too long because they weren't seeing a mixture of people. Because a lot of the people who just wanted to do their daily quests, they were consistently doing flag games because it was significantly easier and a bit, less stressful. And then the hardcore PvPers who didn't want to be in Cyrodiil that day, they would just consistently queue for Battlegrounds. They would see the same people there, and either they would continue to do a few more of them, or eventually even deathmatch eventually would go dead. And a quick shout out to Devastator, who found me sitting in Cyrodiil getting ready to record this video. And this also perfectly circles us back to the main question. Why Battlegrounds? Well, the easy answer is that newer, returning mid-game players are just more likely to do Battlegrounds. They're more likely to go in there. They're faster. They know that they only, max it'll be like 15 minutes. They know that they're guaranteed to get AP at the end of it without having to run to specific keeps and getting lost and confused. And overall, there's just more people interacting with that system. So the hope is that as people interact with Battlegrounds, as people get comfortable with it, new players, returning players, as people do these 8v8s, they're going to go, you know what? I want to go to Cyrodiil now. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. A lot of people wanted to see the chicken first. They wanted to see Cyrodiil get this big update. And I think that there would be a significant positive reception to that. But the ESO developers seem like they wanted to focus on the egg first. How can we encourage players to do PvP, adding new sets, rewards, achievements, antiquities, titles, yada yada to Battlegrounds, making it a more stress-free environment, making it to where it's 8v8 for non-competitive, so it's easier to balance the teams, because real ones know, it was very hard to balance a 4v4 before. People would disconnect, then it would be difficult to find somebody that was of a proper elo to put back in. So you would play with a man down, or you play with two men down. It could become very stressful, and so this kind of helps balance things out significantly easier. And because MMR is also seeing a big change as well, that will also go a long way into encouraging players like, hey, this is what you can do. This is how the matchmaking is going to work, so it's less stressful. You know that you're going to go against people of similar matchmaking. It's not like going into a Call of Duty lobby and you're going against like 15 streamers. And notably, the last time that Cyrodiil had done any sort of testing or changing was actually December 4th of just last year, 2023, where they tested the population cap and by doubling the AP. And also, I think this was a great test to see how many people are going to log into Cyrodiil. And obviously, too, they can test this stuff during events like Mid-Year Mayhem, which gives double AP as well. but I think this is a good starting point as to when exactly Cyrodiil may be updated. But we have a couple other things to talk about as well. Because a lot of you, when I asked what changes do you want to see to Cyrodiil, a lot of you named changes such as things to battle spirit. A lot of you wanted to see things like movement speed increases, maybe a new skill line that levels up with your alliance points. And the interesting thing I think about most of those ideas, which were all discussed, by the way, and I can give you feedback on that in just 1 second, is that that doesn't necessarily update Cyrodiil in any way. Giving you a new skill line doesn't necessarily add anything to Cyrodiil in and of itself. Some of you did suggest things that were really cool, like an espionage skill line that would allow you to interact with the Cyrodiil map in new ways. I think that was actually a really cool piece of feedback. But changes like to battle spirit, yes, would affect Cyrodiil, but and notably, people were talking about movement speed increases or changes to cross healing. If they made those changes, I don't think that that would be in a Cyrodiil update. I think that would be in like a Q3 update or maybe even a Q1 update, just because they're very minor tweaks that I think that they're consistently looking at. How do they want to balance the player population? How do they want to balance, sets? How do they want to balance these meta and things? And they've tweaked battle spirit plenty of times before. So I could definitely see that being something that they continue to explore, because that's something that they directly mentioned was their conversations that they have internally about battle spirit. And just if you're new and you don't know what battle spirit is, that reduces your damage taken and shield strength decreased by 50%, healing received is decreased by 55, health recovery is decreased by 50, and ability range of 28 meters or more is increased by 8 meters. I don't want to get people excited by mentioning this, and I don't want to seem as somebody who's clickbaiting or misleading somebody, but ZeniMax does 18-month cycles for testing additions. That's usually how far planned out they have the updates. The last major testing that was done was December 2023, and if they did 18 months from that, that potentially could mean the Q4 update for next year is a Cyrodiil update. To be clear, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be true or not. There could be coding issues. There could be issues that come up and they table it to postpone it. But obviously Q4 is going to be a major system update next year. They're going to continue with that similar line of thinking, as opposed to what they used to do, which was add a zone in Q4 and then add another zone in Q2. Now it's a major system update in Q4, a kind of improvements update in Q3. Q2 was our major zone update, like, our Westweld area, and then Q1 is the dungeon pack. So it's very possible that Q4 of 2025 is a major Cyrodiil update. And it would make sense in the sense that if everybody who's been enjoying Battlegrounds goes, you know what, I want to now go to Cyrodiil, that would be the time to then update and make that the major kind of marquee Q4 update. And to kind of also mention why it's likely to that PvP was kind of postponed until later in the year is that it was only in 2023 that the developers were still finishing the hardware updates for PlayStation, Xbox, both NA, EU, PC. Those of you who don't know, ESO started development in like 2006, 2007, and the hardware that they were using, I think, was like 2013, 14. So the hardware that we were all playing on that hosted these servers was very old, and they updated the servers back here last year. You can see they're talking about the timelines for that update. So I think that's why likely 2023 was Infinite Archive, because obviously Infinite Archive is a very scaled down area. You can only literally take 2 people in there maximum, or you and 1 companion. So it makes sense that that's why 2023 was focused on something that was PvE related, more solo related. Now we've got Battlegrounds. We saw the PvP testing cap that was done at the end of 2023. Now we're getting a Battlegrounds, rework, refresh, update, all new rewards and stuff. So everything that points in the direction of Cyrodiil could see a major update in 2025 and potentially at the latest 2026. But I feel like I just have to say it again. I am obviously not an Elder Scrolls Online developer. I have no inside information. I do social work from 9 to 5. Well, technically 8:30 to 5. I have no real experience with game development. All I'm doing is asking questions, trying to get responses from developers to kind of see what are they testing for, where their headspace is at, what are some things that they're looking into. Because, as those of you who watch the channel may remember, I actually predicted a PvP update in 2024. because at the Las Vegas event in 2023, I had said, you guys are doing a major PvE update in 2023. Does that mean that Q4 of 2024 will be a major PvP overhaul? And that was actually cited in a Reddit post. And actually, here is that Reddit post from 9 months ago. You can see that basically everything that I said was actually referenced by a Reddit post. And I just want to note that they said that it could have been Jakeclips or Nephis that said that. I said that. That was my joke. Just so that people, just so I could take credit, because I'm not a game developer, but I do try to ask very probative questions when I talk to people. I try to get some information, and sometimes too I feel kind of bad because I'm like, is Merkmeyer where we're going in 2025? And then I just try to see the eye movement because I know they're not going to answer the question, but like, do their eyes say yes? Do they say, how do you know that? Do they look disappointed because they think I'm going to be disappointed because the answer is no? Do they look, embarrassed? You just gauging people's reactions. But more importantly, I do think that there's a very real chance that Q4 of either 2025 or 2026 is a Cyrodiil update. And unfortunately, I don't necessarily know which one is more likely. It's very realistic that 18 months of Cyrodiil development started in December of 2023. They're then using that for Battlegrounds to then get all this extra information and doing all this extra testing to see what they would do. And now they're kind of working on a finished product to release for Q4. But it's also very realistic that they alternate major PvE update, major PvP update, major PvE update, major PvP update. And the reason why I think that's very likely is because obviously there's different groups of people that play ESO, and they're always testing those groups of people. And oftentimes, I just want to be realistic with you guys because I've learned this myself. You don't know anything about the average ESO player until you've talked to them, because I would have never guessed some of the responses that when I started doing polls, when I started asking individuals questions, 40% of my viewers a year ago had never done a dungeon. 40%, no dungeon, ever. So when people say, oh, this system must be popular, this system must be this, it's very hard to know that information without seeing it in code, without pulling a data sheet and being like, oh, this is actually the data for this information. Because ESO is a very solo-esque MMO, which I think is great. I think that's what makes it stand out versus World of Warcraft or BDO or any of these other ones. But because of that, getting into the mind of somebody who's doing very solo-based content is very difficult. And I think that's where sometimes as people with expectations for what's the best, what do I want, sometimes we have to taper it back a little bit and go, how many people prefer this thing over this thing? Maybe I don't even know. But everyone, I hope this video was helpful. This is a very speculative video, so if you guys have thoughts and opinions, please put them in the comments below. I probably don't even have to tell you that. You're probably already typing, Jake, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing here? But what I would say, too, is if you are going to leave a comment, I plan to do a video/forum post as well, outlining what I would do to upgrade Cyrodiil. And I threw this to you guys to give you suggestions and ideas, and I lobbed some of those to developers. That was things like the espionage skill line. That was things like changes to Battle Spear, which they had already discussed with other people. If you have suggestions for Cyrodiil, because I think, honestly and truthfully, Cyrodiil is kind of a beast to figure out. Like, what do you do to change Cyrodiil? There's quite a few variables here. There's a lot of things going on, and obviously they don't want to override Cyrodiil and make it to the point where it's nowhere like it used to be. They want to kind of maintain the Cyrodiil that has existed since 2015, or 2014 in its kind of shell. So if you have thoughts and opinions on that, put them in the comments below, because it's very likely that they're looking for feedback on what players want. And I've always wanted to be the catalyst to kind of throw out ideas. That's why I go to these events. That's why I talk to individuals to try to give suggestions, ideas, and feedback in a way that's not as aggressive. Because some people, they write very assertive comments. And as somebody who worked at Walmart, for a long time, I used to be one of the yellow vest guys that would, customer service manager. If you were mean to me, I wouldn't take your return. It'd be like, no receipt. I'd be like, sorry, I don't know how to help you. And then some nice person would come in and be like, look, I lost my receipt. And I'd be like, let me find that for you. I was 19. Don't judge me too harshly. But it's true. If you're nice to people, you will generally get a better response, and you will usually get a little bit more help. So everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you have to do to enter is leave a comment in the comments below. There's probably quite a few comments there already, even by the time I've gotten to this point in the video upon its release. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed/follow on Twitch and Twitter for additional entries. And the third thing is look for a hidden word to be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to find that word, you will win. Thank you guys so much again for watching. I'll catch you later. I'll see you then. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.